Right. Oh, we gotta fix the camera here a little bit. All right. Hello, everyone. We're back. I know it's been a while. There's been a lot going on with my end here. Recently, was laid off from my job, but thankfully, I have a new job kind of in the works, so I'm able to be able to do this stream here in the afternoon. Yeah, there's just been a lot. There's been a lot. It's been pretty hectic, so I know I've been out for a few weeks. Hoping to kind of get back in a regular routine, especially come the summer and everything, get everything the ball rolling for that. So, but I appreciate everyone's patience and hopefully, we'll be able to pick up the pace on a more regular, consistent schedule here for those that are watching, either on YouTube or wherever it may be. Again, trying to be a little more active here and there. So we'll see. But with that being said, the most important thing is that we're here for the skills and hopefully for the watch play, which I'm actually going to play today. So we'll be able to do that here. If you're watching on YouTube, again, make sure to like, subscribe. Everywhere else, I know I recently just launched on Facebook, maybe on Instagram. I'll try to kind of get up there too. But in the meantime, we'll just kind of, we'll go here and the two main sources. So yeah, let's dive into our first skill here that we're going to take a look at. And we're going to do a really good skill here about building a window of tolerance. And this is important because what happens, and we'll get to when we get to the worksheet here to take a look at it. What's important about this is that there's one main kind of model that we look at that I've said a few times here about the DBT scale of emotional intensity. That's a really, really impactful skill or model to look at because for me, I've been kind of trained in using the DBT CBT approach. And some people say like, oh, it's not effective. And I think it really comes down to understanding where you are with your emotions, right? Like if you're experiencing the intensity of the emotions, it's going to be hard to do things like journaling or kind of the self-reflection because what you're perceiving to be is a kind of a crisis response that's needed to handle that emotion, right? So that's where it's important to be able to kind of differentiate between the two of knowing, okay, so do I need to use my crisis management skills or do I need to use my self-reflection? So I'm going to get to the worksheet here. I'm actually going to go right to that part there about the DBT scale of emotional intensity, and then we'll talk about the window of tolerance because essentially what we're trying to do is we're trying to expand our ability of when something is kind of bugging us or whatever it may be that may increase those symptoms. We want to make sure we have a bigger window so we can handle it better, right? So let's pull up the skill here, or the worksheet here, and we'll be good to go. Yeah, so here it is, the DBT scale of emotional intensity. We were just talking about this. Like I said, this thing is a great model to look at because the whole, as I said, if we're able to kind of break our emotions down into whether if we need a crisis response or if we need that emotion regulation zone, the blue zone, we're going to do those skills that are needed depending on kind of where we're at, right? So just kind of recap for the DBT scale of emotional intensity is what it is that it's a skill derived from kind of the DBT handbook, which again, DBT stands for dialectical behavioral therapy, where you're able to address the emotions and how it's kind of impacting your environment here. And what this skill shows is that on a scale from 1 to 10, 1 being the least intense to 10 being the most intense, where does your emotions lie? And if you're in this 1 to 6 range, what it means is that you could do things like the emotion regulation skills or interpersonal effectiveness, mindfulness skills, the journaling, the ability to kind of even utilize kind of maybe things like radical acceptance in that sense, maybe impactful here when you're experiencing the way that you're feeling, right? So if something bugs you, but you feel you're still in control of yourself, that's where kind of these blue zone skills come into place. Now, when we get into that red zone, when we get to the 7 to 10 range, that's when we are perceiving whatever it is, if it's a particular threat, as a particular crisis that we need to get resolved. And this is where the distress tolerance skills come into play. So we're going to talk about grounding. We're going to be talking about distractions, kind of like the box breathing sort of things. I've shared it a few times in the other videos. So the more that you're able to kind of have these particular crisis management skills, the better you are at being able to reduce that intensity of that emotion. Okay? So what is the window of tolerance? So this is a nice little kind of graph to kind of show what it is and what we're trying to do. And what's interesting about this is that when we think of emotion, a lot of the time we think of, when we get into this area of like the volcano, right, where we just kind of explode and we're out of control, the anxiety takes over. It really just kind of impacts your ability to really just function, right? But what's interesting is that not only is there that intense state, which we call that hyperarousal, there's this hypoarousal state that can occur too, where you're feeling zoned out, maybe some disassociations happening, you're feeling numb, frozen, your body wants to shut down, and something that is just, you're not choosing to have these reactions, it's just what's kind of occurring here, right? So you can either go to one end or the other, depending kind of where the intensity of that trigger is that's leading your emotions to be. And what the goal that we're trying to do is we're trying to expand this window of tolerance. And what the window of tolerance is where you feel you can deal with whatever's happening inside, right? So I always like to, I'll kind of switch back here, but just kind of think of, you have this window here as this is the window of tolerance, and you really just want to expand that, right? So the more, say, crap or whatever that's in here that's making you upset or whatever it is, whatever is inside this window you're able to handle. So we want to try to expand that, right? Because if it's smaller, then we can't handle it and it's difficult to kind of manage it. So the goal that we're trying to do is we're trying to expand the window, so whatever stresses or whatever's kind of going on there, we feel we're able to be like, okay, like I can handle this, I can do this, right? So that's the whole main goal there that we're trying to do. So obviously, certain things like trauma is going to shrink that window of tolerance. Difficulty experiences that you've had is going to shrink it. But certain things like working with a therapist or being able to kind of work on those skills, whether if it's the self-improvement skills or the journaling or whatever it may be, the goal is to try to expand that window there, right? So moving up a bit, it kind of breaks down what the difference is between hyperarousal and hypoarousal, and we kind of touch base about what they were there. So again, hyperarousal is where in that fight-flight response, the freeze, we can even say, is more so of that shutting down that can occur. But hyperarousal symptoms include the anger outburst, the fear, anxiety, emotional overwhelm, the panic, hypervigilance, tightened muscles. All those things can be in that hyperarousal state. Now, the other side, again, that hyperarousal is that shutdown or that collapse where you feel those things are going to be, you're feeling threatened. Maybe traumatic memories are coming to play, and you just kind of feel like you're kind of stuck in the particular emotions that you're having there, right? So, again, the goal that we're trying to do is we want to expand this window here so we can handle whatever's kind of going inside here. Yeah, and again, it's as we kind of share for this, and we'll get to kind of the next topic as well. The more that you're able to expand it, the better you are at being able to kind of handle it. So think about kind of yourself, where you are. And again, I know it's kind of a quick sort of kind of information here, but when you think about what bothers you or what maybe kind of increase your emotions, where is your window of tolerance, right? Would you say it's kind of more on the smaller side, average, medium, big, whatever? If think about kind of those triggers that occur, and think about kind of yourself, and where do they fit in your window of tolerance? Maybe you have a smaller window of tolerance for, I don't know, having to repeat yourself, or maybe you have a smaller window of tolerance for someone not being able to. My cat's just, I don't know what my cat's doing. Smaller window of tolerance for something that is someone's being rude to you or something, right? So think about kind of your interactions that you have with people or whatever tasks that you may encounter on a day-to-day basis, and see where your window of tolerance is. And the goal that we want to do is try to expand that. And we'll get to be able to kind of build those strategies here next video. But hopefully you enjoyed this. If you're watching this on YouTube, like I said, subscribe. Make sure you hit those follow buttons everywhere else. And otherwise, move on to the next skill. And yeah, thank you.